Hello and welcome to our next episode of One Cardinal, One Cub, and One Beer, brought to you by nothing. We don't have a sponsor yet, but we are. I sent JJ the image of what we're going to use for some advertisement, and I've got to say it looks very mediocre. So that's as good as we can do. So I'm very, very proud of the mediocrity that I've created. Um, Remember to follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. You can contact us at one card, one cub, one beer at gmail.com. Also, make sure that you support us through Patreon. Go to patreon.com and type in one cardinal, one cub, and one beer, and you'll find us, and you can support our Patreon page for as little as $3 a month. Every penny does help, and we are starting to put that to use in doing some advertising. And remember, if you would like to subscribe to our page, if you are one of those faithful people who actually watch our YouTube channel, please hit the button, for those of you on Mac and PC, at the bottom right of the corner. I've gotten really good at
You're very good at
doing
that.
I want to tell you, JJ, I did the contest last week, and I forgot the mug, so I can't show you the mugs. But if you did not watch last week's episode, watch the beginning. You can see the mugs that are available. And
Very nice.
I've had 3 guesses. And the question is, who was my first favorite player? And 2 of the guesses were Dave Kingman. He was my favorite player at one time, but he wasn't my first favorite player. And one person actually said B.B. Richards. So he never played for the Cubs, but maybe in my mind, as I become older and have a little more problems mentally, maybe I'll put in my mind that B.B. Richards was a Cub and was my favorite player. I don't know. But I am going to get ahead. I want you to think batting titles. Batting titles. My first favorite player for the Cubs. The big hint is batting titles. And you can contact me through the podcast. Just leave a comment on the podcast, or you can leave a comment on the YouTube channel, or you can contact me directly, or you can email at one card, one cup, one beer at gmail.com. You can contact JJ, but the first person who gets us right gets their choice of a Cardinal coffee mug or a cup coffee mug. One of a kind thing. So, JJ, how are you doing?
Really good. I would have said Dave Kingman too. If I remembered right, I thought that's who it was, but I would have been wrong as well. But I think I know who it is now. But I'm not allowed to play. So I'm doing good. It's the 7th week. A lot of things happening in baseball, a lot of rivalries. It's just getting good out there in baseball land. And we have the greatest viewers and listeners. One Cardinal, one Cub, one beer. One of the listeners who's a friend is from Michigan, and he sent me an Ernie Hartwell autograph ball.
Ooh, wow.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, Ernie Hartwell. I believe he was the main announcer for the Detroit Tigers for 42 years.
Yeah.
So I told him I will give it a nice place to stay. I got a lot of autograph. I got about 21 autograph balls now, and Ernie Hartwell is my 21st. So I'm very, very proud of that, and thank you. Well, in baseball news and Cardinal news, the sad passing of Rick Hummel. And for a lot of us before cable television, we read the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and Hummel was the beat writer for the Cardinals for a long time. It was 1971 to 2022. He took over for Bob Bragg, who was another Hall of Famer. Both Hummel and Bragg were Hall of Famers. And Bragg, even after he retired, would come on KMOX and have a few things to say. And Hummel, anytime you'd see spring training games, he would be there with a little spiral notebook asking questions. Way back in the late 70s, I first saw him through the 80s, always there at the press conferences and everything. They called him the commish. That was his nickname because he knew so much about baseball, and just a big part of baseball lore. And we're losing those guys from the 60s, 70s. They're all leaving us. But Rick Hummel was great. He retired last year, and then he passed away this year. So he will be missed, and I always enjoyed that guy. Other things in Cardinal news, Nolan Gorman was player of the week. And I have to say, he's really been a blessing. He doesn't play full time, and for somebody who doesn't watch every Cardinal game, you just see highlights of Nolan Gorman. Sometimes he just comes off the bench and hits home runs, or does something very productive for the team. But this kid has been fantastic this year, and he doesn't play all the time. So I don't know if success is because Ollie's knowing how to use him and put him in key situations, or he's just so good that when he does get to play, something positive happens. So right now, everything seems to be working out fantastic for him. But this week, he's only 23 years old, too. A lot of people forget about that. He was our #1 draft choice. This week, he went 11 for 24 with 4 home runs, a double, 11 RBIs. And that's what I call a fantastic week right there. And he plays a good defense, too, at second and third base. You're really not losing anything by having him on the team. Adam Wainwright, since he's been back, the team has just been red hot. And last night he pitched in Cincinnati. Didn't have a great start, but he got the win. So he's won 2 games since he's been back. So he's up to 197 wins. He's 3 away from that magic 200, which only 2 other Cardinal pitchers have done, which is, of course, the great Bob Gibson and Jesse Pop Haynes. And hopefully, if everything goes okay, Adam can get those 3 more and be the 3rd in that 200 club. But he was talking, it was refreshing to hear him say this. He said he does not like pitching in Cincinnati. It's the devil's lair. He said they bloop a hit here, and the next thing you know, he gives up a extra base hit, and then they're knocking one out of the park. And he's not done too well in Cincinnati. It was just fun hearing him say that, because if somebody said that about Busch Stadium, I'd get a kick out of that. He's really just saying it's tough to beat the Reds in Cincinnati. But since he's come back, the Cardinals are 12-4. And last I heard, the Cardinals weren't doing good tonight, so it looks like it's going to be 12-5. But they're just playing much, much better. We're in 4th place now. We passed the Reds, and we're almost neck and neck with those Cubbies. So it's going to be fun. This week we have, at one time we were 10-24 and 10.5 games out, and now we're 22-28 and 5.5 games out. And I tell you what, in this stretch, we played some tough teams. I mean, we've had the Cubs. We had the last game with Detroit, the Cubs, Boston, the Brewers, the Dodgers, and the Reds. The Reds are maybe a little lesser than the others, but we're having a problem with the Reds. But this week, we took the last game against the Brewers. We took 3 out of 4 against the Dodgers. And I think the Dodgers are one of the best teams in the National League. Of course, we went out there earlier in the year, and they swept us. So I was happy to get those 3 out of 4 wins. Our bats are just on fire. Our starting pitching's shaky at best. And then we split the first 2 games with Cincinnati in a 4-game series. And then tonight doesn't look good. And then we play them tomorrow about 11 o'clock in the morning. So that's where we're at right now. And next week, we're going to Cleveland, and they're struggling right now. And then we have 2 home games against Kansas City over Memorial Day weekend. And on paper, Cleveland and Kansas City look like teams that we should do okay against, but it's baseball. Anything can happen. And one last thing, Vince, I always look at the pitching, hitting, and fielding. And right now in the National League, as of today, the Cardinals are the 3rd best hitting team in the National League with a 263 batting average, but the Cubs are 4th with a 262. And then the best hitting, you know who the best hitting team in the National League is right now? I would have never thought of this team. You got an idea?
Could be the Marlins.
It's the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Who see, I thought with the Rise hitting.
Oh yeah, he's on fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Arizona as a team is hitting 266. I know the only player I know is they've got that Rookie of the Year kid that's real fast. That's an outfielder. But anyway, so they're the best. And the worst hitting team is the San Diego Padres as of today. I would have never thought that with the 4 all-star players they have. But that's baseball for you. Pitching, the Cardinals are 8th. We were 11th for a while, so we've creeped up to 8th, but we're still not really. Our ERA is 4.34. The Cubs are 4th best pitching. So congratulations, the Cubs. Fantastic
Thank
pitching.
you.
But the best pitching team, you care to guess who the best pitching team is in the National League?
The Dodgers?
Good. They're up there. That's Atlanta Braves. Atlanta Braves with a 3.64 ERA. They are the best pitching team as of this moment. And fielding, the Cardinals are fourth. The Cubs are sixth. But the Cubs actually passed us up. They got right even with us in the ninth. They fell back to sixth. We're fourth. And the best fielding team right now in the National League is the San Diego Padres. The Padres are the best. The worst fielding team in National League is Atlanta Braves. So they got the best pitching and the worst fielding percentage-wise anyway in the National League. So it's going to be a great season, guys. Nothing's for sure. The last place team could sweep you, and you could come out there and sweep, Atlanta Braves or the Dodgers or somebody like that. So it's gonna be fun. So that's it from Cardinal land, Vince.
Do you remember a player named Greg Pryor from the 70s?
Was he a White Sox?
Played for the White Sox. He played for the Royals. A utility infielder. They had a suspended game that they started like at 10:30 in the morning before a day game. And they asked him what it was like to play that early in the morning. He said it was weird. I still had the cereal on my breath. And that's what I think about when I think about 11 o'clock games. It's just too early. It's too early.
Oh, they're probably getting there.
So when you said they play at 11, I yawned.
Oh, yeah.
I have to have lunch before a baseball game, let me tell you. So yeah, but having tomorrow off, I'm sure I'll have the Cardinal game on. Well, for the Cubs this week, we went 2-3. We lost the final in Houston so the Astros finished off the sweep last Wednesday. Then we went to Philadelphia. We went 1-2, and then last night we ripped the Mets at the beginning of the homestand. We are currently ahead 3-2 in the fifth inning against the Mets. So
very good.
For those of you who hate the Mets, which is everybody except my cousin Mark, we don't get that. Hopefully we can turn around. We've had a really tough stretch after playing so good, and we're still not done with this first third where it's really rough. So hopefully we can stay in there. We're saving grace is that no one's decided they're going to take the Central by the horns and just run with it. So I mean, if we hang in there through the rough stretch, maybe we'll get a little better. We do. Our bullpen is in shambles at this point. There's nobody we can rely upon for the later innings. Well, there's one that I would like to see, Estrada. I'd like to see us try to put him in the late innings, and he did. They put him in a high leverage situation yesterday with the bases loaded, nobody outs, and he got out of it with giving up a run. It was charged to Smiley, but he did get out of it. So hopefully we can see him in some high leverage situations. You know who the best hitter in baseball is right now? Best hitter on the planet?
The Marlins.
The best hitter on the planet right now.
Who is it?
Now.
Right
It's
now?
Christopher Morel.
Really? Oh.
Listen to this.
All right.
Christopher Morel, I wanted him to come north because Suzuki was on the injured list, and Morel can play anywhere on the diamond. He can play third, he can play second, he can play some short, he can play center, he can play right. And last year he hit 16 home runs in part-time duty. He strikes out a ton, and he can also steal a few bases, but he strikes out a ton. So they sent him to the minors. In his time in Iowa, he hit 11 home runs and was batting 370 something. He was way up there. So, okay. Bellinger has to go on the injured list, and we bring up Morel. He's had 12 games with the Cubs, 52 at bats. He has in 52 at bats, he has 17 hits. So he is hitting 367. Wait a minute. I got that wrong. 49 at bats, he has 17 hits, which means he's hitting 367 since his call up.
Wow.
He scored 18 runs in 12 games. He has hit 9 home runs in these 12 games. Only Mike Schmidt has had a better run of 12 games to start a season, and this is the start of his season. He has driven in 15 runs in 12 games. He has a 367 average, a 404 on base percentage. a 980 slugging percentage, and his OPS right now is 1.383. Right now, he's the best hitter on the planet. And as I said last week, at that point last week, he had 4 home runs. He's up to 9. I said his 4 home runs if we have totaled about 1,600 feet. He's not hitting cheapies. Not a big guy, but man, he's got definition and he's got a fast bat. He's still striking out a ton, but you know what? When you hit 9 home runs in 12 games, who cares if you strike out a lot?
That's right.
I was surprised. He at the beginning of this game, he hit a long drive that went foul, and I thought, man, he's going to do it again. It's almost stupid how it's like a video game right now how he's playing. His start is the hottest start in Cub history as far as pure slugging. And it's just a lot of fun to watch him. If you've not watched Christopher Morel, he can go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, or he can go 4 for 4 with 2 home runs. He's still a very happy-go-lucky guy. He is just Mr. Enthusiasm. He's good to have on the team. And we're not even into June yet. His minor league season combined with his major league season this year, he's already hit 20 home runs. It's just amazing. So because we have the panel that we're going to get to in just a few moments here, we did an abbreviated opening. But I do want to let you know, in 2 weeks, we will not have an episode. Max and I, we're leaving, and we're going to watch a game in Pittsburgh, and we're going to go to Cooperstown for the Hall of Fame. Then on the way back, we're going to watch a Guardians game. So we're kind of making a baseball loop. And because of that, I can't edit, because believe it or not, I don't have a laptop. I just have a PC, so I can't take this and edit it. It takes some time. So we're just not going to have an episode in 2 weeks. And then when we come back, I'll have some montage of what me and Max did.
That's going to be cool.
But so mark it on your calendars in 2 weeks. So we won't be here, but we'll be back. We'll be here next week. Won't be here in 2 weeks. Then 3 weeks we'll be back. So that's awesome. JJ, are you ready for our panel?
I'm ready for our panel.
Should we get these 4 gorgeous gentlemen in?
Oh, yeah. Classy this place up.
All right. Welcome to our first panel show. Me, JJ, Brody, Max are here. We're the regulars, and we found 2 men walking the streets, and we said, do you want to be on a show? They said no. So we said, we will pay you. They said sure. We just didn't tell them that we were liars. So we'll start with Brandon. Brandon, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you became a baseball fan.
I was raised mostly in St. Louis. That's about it. It's all you need to know. Growing up in St. Louis, you become a baseball fan from birth. You know, you're wearing you bought Cardinal clothing from a little baby, and just became a Cardinals fan. Obviously, when your family is Cardinal fans, you grow up Cardinal fans. So that'd be about it. I just always loved the sport. I started playing as a little kid, you know, t-ball, and played all the way through Little League and 16 or so. And yeah, but it just always loved the sport.
Well, I will dispute something. Max and I both grew up in St. Louis, and we're not Cardinal fans.
Oh no! Yeah, I see that. What happened? It was
some of us find God, some of us don't. That's all I'm going to say. Ray, tell us about yourself. How'd you become a baseball fan?
Well, actually, my uncle started taking me to the games in like the middle to late 70s. And that's how I became a fan. And plus, I played kind of like Brandon. I played Little League and Major League and all that in the Hillsborough area. And just really loved the sport. And the only way I knew I could get better was to go watch the pros. And every time I had a chance with my uncles, I would head on up to the stadium and watch the games with them.
Very good. Very good. Well, JJ, why don't you get us started, because you have such insight into your questions.
Oh, look at this guy, man. That's love right there. Yeah. Well, I tell you what.
What's love got to do with it?
Oh,
Sorry, I got
Tina.
Tina Turner on the mind since she passed
Oh,
away.
Tina.
Oh.
Well, the first question is just kind of getting to know each other and getting some of your thoughts on some of this stuff. But my first question was the first game you ever attended in person, and do you have any memories of that particular game? And kind of a sub question, do you prefer to go to the park and watch the game, or do you rather stay at home and watch it on TV? So that's my first question. Do you remember the first game you went to, and what was so memorable about it? What caught your eye in that kind of thing?
You want me to go?
Yeah, Brandon, sure.
Okay.
Sure, why not?
I do not remember my first game. It just, way too young. I'm sure, memories would be cooking in the hot temperatures at Old Bush, going with my mother or uncles taking me, grandparents. I remember coming home, leaving the ballpark and listening to maybe the end of the game if we didn't make it to the end. Always listening to Jack Buck and Mike Shannon on the way home. And then I love going to live games, but a regular season, I'd rather just watch it on TV. If it's a playoff game, I'd much rather be at the stadium. It's just the atmosphere is just amped up so much more than just your typical, regular season game. Unless, of course, it's a rivalry like the Cubs, of course. Then those are always great. Those are always good too. The rivalry games are always good to be at, even if it's not playoffs.
Now, it must be said that Brandon has moved up, and he's in the Ohio area, up around Cincinnati.
Yes.
So he goes and catches the Cardinals over at I call it Riverfront, but it's America Ballpark or something.
A lot of them call it Great American Small Park, just because the ball flies out of there like nobody's business, as you see just watching the games here. Very nice stadium.
I love it, and a good ticket is to be had. It looked like they had like 10,000 there last night. It wasn't a big crowd.
Yeah, we went on Monday, and there was maybe 10,000 at most, and I would say probably about 7,000 of those were Cardinal fans. So the team is not very good. I think I know 3 players on the Reds, and the rest are, I think, straight up from AAA. But that's my thoughts.
Anybody else got anything to add about your first baseball experience?
Well, my first one, I think, was about 1975. I was real young. I can barely remember the details, but I just remember my uncle saying, keep an eye on this guy. And he was talking about Bob Gibson. He was talking about Lou Brock. And I think it was even a young Keith Hernandez was on the team in 75. I remember the ballpark, and it was huge and overwhelming for me, but it was fun to watch the game. We never had really great seats, but we had good seats. And the middle 70s is probably my first. I want to say 75 is probably my first game ever. And as for watching games, I attend about 6 a year. Just whenever I can get tickets at a decent price, I'll go. Take the family, head on up there and watch a game. But I'm more of a radio guy. I like listening to it over the radio more than I do even watching it on TV. I'll sit out in the garage and just chill with a drink and listen to it on the radio.
We had great announcers through the years too.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about there. Max, you got any thoughts on your first game you attended?
But for my first game, I remember very little of it. I was only about 5 or 6. Actually, I went on to Baseball Reference a couple months back and actually found the box score for it, but it was Giants versus Cubs at Wrigley Field. And all I can remember thinking was, why are these guys called the Giants? They seem pretty normal sized. Compared to little five-year-old Max, they were quite large people. But fun fact, Barry Bonds did go deep that day, and Cubs did end up winning, but I remember none of that. So
I remember that game when Barry Bonds would come up and all the booze would rain down. You and Violet were like, why are they booing him? You'll understand when you get older.
Mm-hmm. And I understand now.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Do you like the ballpark experience or watching it on TV better?
I love the ballpark experience. I haven't actually gotten to go to a game so far this year. I've been very busy, but I mean, obviously it depends on where I'm at because, I'm in school most of the time, but, I also just love watching a game on the couch, just sitting down, just coming back from classes. If it's an afternoon game, just sitting down and just, getting annoyed by David Ross and his poor managerial decisions, stuff like that, standard Cubs fan stuff. But love the ballpark experience, love hot dogs.
Does St.
It's
Louis
amazing.
treat you guys nice? Does it treat if you guys go in your Cub stuff? No, really? Oh, wow! I'm sorry to hear that. I
It's
thought
good natured.
it's
It's good natured. I've worn it once on this show. I've got a red Cub jersey and it says Cubs across it. And I like wearing that to Busch Stadium because people will look at it and they'll go, because they'll think it's a Cardinal shirt. Oh, Cubs. And I said, yeah, I figured you wouldn't realize because most Cardinal fans can't read.
Now your wife is a
kinda-
Cardinal fan, so does
Yeah.
she disown you? Like if they start ganging up on you, she, oh, who this guy is?
She disowns me for a lot of reasons. So
Poor Max didn't stand a chance apparently with you as his father. That's why he's a Cubs
just
fan, I guess.
Horrible.
Brainwashed, poor kid.
Now, Brody is our youngest here on the panel. And do you remember your first baseball experience going to a game?
Yeah, I do. I want to say it was like 15 or 16, 2015 or 16. And I was terrified of heights back then, by the way. So so our seats got too high for my liking. So me and my mom went down. Baseball Village was brand new at this time. So we went down in there and we watched Baseball Village. And I remember it was Carlos Martinez pitched. And somebody hit a big home run. I couldn't tell you who it was at the time. But the sirens were going off, and I remember all that cool stuff. We had Rams cheerleaders coming by and all that. And Ted Cruz. Well,
the Rams, wow.
yeah, it was back then, so it was a little while ago.
Well, my first game was 76. This is how old I am. I'm the oldest here. 76 Mother's Day. I remember it was like yesterday. This was like, a baptism for me. It was like I had become awake, and we were in the bleachers at Old Busch Stadium. Coming up, it was the Astros Cardinals, and the Astros had those rainbow jerseys of the 70s. Coming up there, and all the color, how green the grass was, how white the uniforms were, how bright the Astros uniforms were. I could give you the starting lineups. The Cardinals lost 2-1. Bob Watson hit a home run over Lou Brock's head, but I just thought it was an honor. I could see Lou Brock play ball because all those years of listening to him on the radio broadcast, there he was live and in person, out in left field, and all those great Astro players too. It was Larry Durker versus John Curtis. That's all I can really remember. It was 2-1, and man, I was hooked. I was already a baseball fan at that point anyway, but that really set me to the next level. And I prefer, with the TV experience and the crowds and everything, I like to go to the ballpark, like Ray said, about 6 times a year. That's about good for me. But with the experience at home now, it's fantastic. You can see everything, and they cover every angle. It's pretty nice watching it at home now. That's what I like. And Vince, you got any thoughts on yours?
I think I had the best first baseball game experience. 1977. We're playing the Dodgers. Steve Yeager hits a grand slam. The Dodgers are up 4-1. We come back. They bring in Raboski to pitch in the top of the 9th. And we get a runner on. We're down 4-3. Cardinals are down 4-3. And Roger Freed comes up to pinch hit and hits one out and walks us home. And I thought, wow, they're all going to be like this. And I like going to the ballpark, but I much prefer to watch the game on TV because clothing is optional there.
Well, you can do that at the ballpark. You might get a little trouble though, or something like that. Well, that was pretty cool. So I thought that was a good question to start with, to kind of get to know everybody and our experiences and our fandom for baseball and just in general, not just the Cubs and the Cardinals, but baseball in general. Vince, did you want to ask the next question?
Sure. When I was a kid, the stats that I looked up to gauge how good a hitter was batting average and RBIs. And for a pitcher, it was earned run average. In today's game, those numbers don't have quite the importance that we have now with analytical stats. So I want to ask you, what stat do you think is most telling of the success of a hitter? And what stat, one stat, mind you, do you believe is most telling of the effectiveness of a pitcher? Kind of a thinker. While you think, I'll tell you my answers. We now know that RBIs are really a product of that. It's a team stat, more or less, where you bat, who's on base, so on and so forth. So I don't give a whole lot of credence to RBIs anymore. Batting average, I do to a degree, but now we know that on base percentage is really a better stat to gauge how effective they are getting on a particular player is getting on base. With pitching, earned run average can be a little skewed depending upon your defense, depending upon the ballpark you pitch in. So the stat that I like for a pitcher is WHIP, walks, hits per 9 innings. So that's kind of the stats that I lean on now. Well, with the hitter, I didn't tell you, it's OPS, on base plus slugging, is what I use to really gauge a hitter, and WAR is kind of in there with both of these categories with pitchers and hitters. So what do you think? What stats do you like?
I can tackle this one. I think it's every stat has its use. It's like they're tools, and tools they have their own specific uses. You can't take a jackhammer and use it to get a lug nut off or anything. But everything is useful in its own right. Even stuff like RBIs, even though maybe modern sabermetrics that don't like that. I think RBIs are a great indicator of clutch. If you have a ton of RBIs, it means you're getting hits with people in scoring position, or you're driving yourself in with home runs, stuff like that. So really, there's no one stat to rule them all, in my opinion. Stuff that's easy to see, like OPS plus, where it's just 100 is league average. A guy who's got a 130 OPS plus, he's doing pretty well. WRC plus is park adjusted, which is also nice, but it's really just kind of whatever you prefer at this point.
What do you prefer with pitchers?
For pitchers, I mean, kind of the same deal. ERA plus, FIP, I think is pretty solid. My one gripe with people who use FIP is in Cy Young voting. I don't like when people use FIP because it's a predictive stat. Just if a guy had like a 1.75 ERA and like a 3 FIP, that guy's still a Cy Young winner, because he pitched to this level. He probably won't recreate that next year, but he did this. He went out and he shoved for, this stretch of time. So ERA and FIP, or I guess ERA plus and FIP would be my two answers to that.
I'm going to say, and this is, I think availability is a big part of the game, and I like innings pitched. I think if you're successful, you'll be out there more. I think Sandy Alcantara, there was quite a few guys last year. He had the complete games, but the innings pitched, he was way out ahead of those. And it was just the team leaned on him. He could, and innings pitched for a pitcher, you get to save that bullpen. As we can see with Steven Matz, our bullpen has to pitch like six innings a game when Steven Matz is out there, and he's killing us. And so nowadays, if you can just go 6, 5 1/3, that seems like a major accomplishment. So these guys that go 7, 8 innings, it's just so valuable, and it refreshes the team. Especially, everything I talk about is Cardinal centric, but we're on a 19-game stretch right now, and the bullpen is just starting to get worn out, and these starters just aren't going very long. So inning pitch is so valuable to me. It just means you're our best bet to get the job done out there. And as far as hitting, I do like on base percentage, because I do like it includes the walks and the hits. And I think our best players, we've got a lot of outfielders and a lot of infielders, but I really like Brendan Donovan. That guy gets a 3-2 count every time up there. He works the pitcher, and he works a lot of walks, and that is so valuable. And his walk to strikeout ratio is fantastic. So I kind of lean on base percentage for hitters. I really like that. And innings pitched for for pitchers. I know that doesn't necessarily mean the best pitcher, but it's just a guy that goes out there, a workhorse, and gets the job done and helps the team in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm kind of old school when it comes to the stats on pitching and batting. I really prefer ERA to be low. Like JJ said, inning pitched is very important, but having a low ERA is like my go-to. And with the batting, it's the average. You know, anything over 300, that you're golden in my book.
Yeah, I agree with Ray. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is batting average is huge for. I mean, you just look at the average, you know kind of what the hitter's about, and walk to strikeout obviously with them also. And if I'm looking at pitching, ERA, win loss. That's going to tell you how good of a pitcher. A lot of times. I think baseball analytics. I think nowadays it's gone just over the top. It's just too much. I mean, they're like, oh wow, that guy hit that ball super hard. Now, yeah, it's an out. It was right to the shortstop or right to the outfielder, man, but he hit it hard. It's like, what does that stat mean? It means nothing to me. I mean, he just got it. He's out. He's not on base. I just think they overanalyze everything nowadays, and I think it affects the way managers even manage the game and manage pitchers. And what does the stat say? How is this pitcher going to go against this batter? And so they go off the analytics versus, how is this guy doing moment by moment or going, pitching right now? Is he effective? Then I'm, leave him in. But, they go more off of just the analytics versus the person on the that's playing, I would say.
I say for pitching, I'm old school. It's still ERA. I agree with Ray. But last year with Paul Goldschmidt, having what was it like 40, like a 40 game or 40 at bat streak of getting on base. I think it was 40 games.
He was on. Yeah, he had a long one.
Yeah, it was crazy. That's when I realized that maybe on base percentage is important as a batter, because you don't even have to hit get a hit necessarily. Just have to have a good eye, maybe even just to get on base. And I think even just having a good eye increases your value as a hitter, other than just being able to Barry Bonds that thing out of the park.
He don't chase either.
No, he don't.
Yeah, he don't go chasing the outside pitches or anything like that. So we got a little bit of everything on that answer. A little bit. I think managers there's a little change in the atmosphere. It went all sabermetrics there for a while, but I think you got your guys like Dusty Baker and Bochy and Sosha and probably David Ross. Is David Ross kind of more of a gut, how he feels, what he's seeing, that kind of thing, or does he go by?
He must go by his gut because he doesn't often go by his brain.
He goes by neither.
He's got one of those 8 balls, magic 8 ball.
The magic 8 ball.
He flips a coin.
See, the managers you just mentioned, JJ, are older managers.
You're right.
Bochy, Baker, Sosha. In today's managerial job, a lot of it is managed by upper management. This is what you will do. And I philosophical differences is what got Schultz fired. I'm sure that was a lot of it, because even though he was doing the major leagues, he'd been managing for so long in the minors. He kind of has that old school mentality. And in today's world, who's going to tell Dusty Baker or Bruce Bochy what to do with all their success? Nobody. But the rest of these cats that are out there, a lot of that management is dictated by what upper management is telling them to do for the game. You're still pressing the buttons you think are right, but that upper management is telling you this guy isn't gonna. I don't want to see him hit against so and so. There is a lot of that goes on. Joe Madden, if you read his book, you find out that that's a lot of why he got out of management. Aside from the fact he was persistently finishing in the second division with the Angels, but he was being micromanaged, and that started with his tenure with the Cubs, from upper management telling him what to do. The game's just changed. And so you do have a few of those old school managers left, but not too many.
That's true. Not too many.
Yeah, and I think you're kind of seeing a trend towards kind of like that newer analytics side. Like I think Kevin Cash is a great example of a manager who's, I don't know if he's super young. He's like in his early 40s. I mean, he's just one of those guys where I'm sure the front office they print out a spreadsheet, he looks at it, and he makes his decisions based on that. And clearly he's gotten a lot of flack, like pulling Blake Snell in the World Series a couple of years back. But
Oh yeah.
all that being said, the Rays are one of the most successful teams in baseball over the past few years, despite plenty of injuries and really being a low payroll team. They've been quite successful with that model. I think the issue comes in where you have other teams that try and kind of emulate that, and then that fails because they're not the Rays or whatever, or they're not the Dodgers. They don't have the stuff necessarily. The I guess they don't have the process down correctly.
Sometimes it's just pure luck too, who you draft and that kind of thing. Who develops? And the developing part of the players too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my next question is the big story is the new rules. We've got basically 3 new rules. We got the time clock, and the new bases and the shift. What are you guys thinking so far? We're about 7 weeks into the season. They're making adjustments. They're still tweaking on the time clock and doing a few things. What do you think about the new rules? Max is pro new rules.
Yep, 100%.
100%. All right. Yeah. What about you, Brandon? What do you think about these new rules?
Let's see. I do like the speeding up of the game somewhat. I'm not sure if they have that down or perfected just yet, but I do like where the batter's not taking 2 minutes to clean, stretch his gloves and get his batting gloves all ready, and
the Velcro.
then finally getting back in the box. I don't know, the constant adjustments of it. I do like speeding that up somewhat. I guess something I don't like is I saw in the game I went to on Monday night, which is the extra innings and giving them a runner at second base. I don't understand that. I mean, that's like you're playing a game sandlot ball and you don't have enough players, so you throw a guy at second base. It's
Invisible man.
To me that just doesn't make sense. I would get rid of that. Yeah, I do like not allowing the shift, as far as I never did like where you were you'd let a shortstop and a third baseman go across the second base bag onto the other side and vice versa. I was never for that. I thought that was just even though the hitter should be good enough to hit the ball the other way, I never did like the shift. But yeah, those would be a couple of my complaints or likes. The bigger base, I don't really care about that. Really, I don't understand why the base has to be bigger. Really, I don't. But that's whatever.
Yeah. All right. I haven't really noticed the bases after the first
week.
I haven't really noticed them being any bigger. I've adjusted to it, I guess.
Yeah, it was just one I noticed that they increased the base size. I don't understand that one, but hey, I don't think it's a big deal.
All right. Well, Ray, you've been watching all these games. What do you think about all these new rules going on?
Well, I'm a fan, like Brandon said, of speeding up the game some, but I am not a fan of like the time clock in instances where the batter is almost ready and he gets penalized. The pitcher automatically gets a strike without even throwing the ball. That don't make sense to me at all. I get they want to speed the game up, and I get some guys will sit there and, like you said, adjust the gloves, adjust the elbow pads, adjust the knee pads or the leg guards and all that other stuff. I totally get that, but maybe they should extend that just a little bit longer, because like I said, I seen a highlight the other day where the batter was just getting ready to step into the box or whatever, and the time expired, so he got a strike called against him, and the pitcher didn't even have to throw a pitch. And I don't get that. I'm like, how does he get a strike and he hadn't even thrown the ball? That's my one complaint about the time clock thing. If they could make it just a little bit longer. I mean, they're only right now, I believe they're only saving about 35 minutes on each game, so it's knocking it down from 3 hours down to about 2.5. If you extend that another 5 seconds for each player, the pitcher and the batter, what are you going to lose? 15, 20 minutes. So I don't see why they couldn't make that adjustment, but I get it and I understand it, and I'm adjusting to it. The bigger bases, I haven't really noticed a difference in that. It don't affect anything that I've seen so far. The shift, I was a fan of the shift, only because these guys are playing at a professional level. If the the batters couldn't figure out how to adjust and go the other way, then that's on them, and they've had, these guys we're watching the best of the best, why you can't even bunt one down third base to get on is a mystery to me. And once again, but I understand, the shift being taken away, which I've noticed a lot of guys are hitting it right up that hole now where it was. And before, that was an easy out for guys back, 2, 3, 4 years ago, even further back, because that shift's been going for a while now. That's about all I have on the rules. I'm okay with all of them. Maybe, like I said, just extending that clock a little bit longer.
What are they doing when it comes to playoffs? Will they still have clocks and penalized batters and ghost runners or whatever and extra innings? I can't imagine they're going to have that, right?
I don't think extra innings will be just like like it used to be. Okay. They won't have it, because I don't know if you remember last year, there was an Indians game. I forgot who they were playing, but it was like
the Rays game. It went like 18 innings. I watched all of it, and it was insane. I've never seen just such great pitching.
It was intense. Every at bat was so intense for that 18 innings. I enjoyed it, and like you said, I'm glad they don't do that in the playoffs.
JJ, I'm highly offended. You said Indians. I should just log off now.
I'm old. Can you forgive an old man?
I'm so hurt.
I forget. I can't keep track. I still say the San Diego Chargers.
I still say the Chargers. I'm still saying Indians. Go ahead.
I still say Washington Senators.
That's what.
He's more
the
mature.
Seattle Pilots.
Yeah. He's more mature than I am.
Gonna go watch the Philadelphia A's play.
Well, Brody, what do you think about all these rules? Are they doing it in high school too? Is this...
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay, they're not doing it in high school. All right.
The bigger bases, I haven't really noticed like a huge difference in stolen bases.
There are a few that's really taken off this year.
But
it's an Oakland A player, so you don't really get to see it. You don't know highlights there.
But the pitch clock, the only thing I don't like about pitch clocks is I've noticed people have found loopholes. Like I think it's a Yankees pitcher. I couldn't tell you his name, and he like swings his leg around and stuff, and he starts his wind up, so they can't penalize him, but he'll do it for like 5 seconds and then sling the ball in.
Nasty Nestor.
I hate to hate on the Cardinals, but Contreras, he gets in the head by keeping that back foot out until like 7 seconds, and then he puts his foot in before they put
the clock to the pitcher has to wait on him to get in there.
Right, yeah. He gets in their head. But yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Well, Vince, what do you think about the new rules? I know we talked at the beginning of the year. I think you were excited about the new rules.
Yeah, I like them all. The games look like they did 20 years ago. I don't like 3-hour games, particularly when we're trying to. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, I was very traditional. No DH in the National League, no pitch clock. I had to shift because I realized the sport I love was going to be falling below soccer, Major League Soccer in popularity because we weren't getting a generation watching these games because they would stupidly start the World Series games at 7:45, and then they would take 3.5 hours and kids would miss them. So I like the speeding up of the games, and I actually like it more than I thought because it just reminds me of baseball when I was growing up. When the pitcher got the ball and threw it, besides Mike Hargrove, everybody got in the batter's box and was ready to swing. I do like the ghost runner. There is nothing that's more frustrating to me than to be up to watch a baseball game when you got to work in the morning and suddenly that sucker goes 15 innings. I like the ghost runner, get some action, get this game over with. And I do agree in the playoffs, let them play it out. But during the regular season, when you got the Marlins playing the Pirates. Let's get that sucker over, okay?
Nobody's watching that anyways.
There's some common sense with the time clock. I saw in April, there was some players that would go back to old teams and there'd be a big standing ovation and they'd be celebrating and they'd hit them with a penalty because they were celebrating the player. And I've even heard like Bob Costas and some people in MLB go, come on, a little common sense. And I think there was one time Alonso hit a ball down the line and he was hustling, but he had to run all the way back and get his bat, and he had a pitch clock violation because they started timing him. As soon as they called the foul ball, they started the clock, and he didn't have time to run, get the bat, get back in the box. So now in May, I haven't seen anything like that. Freddie Freeman went back to Atlanta, and they had a big applause for him. Contreras went back to Chicago, and of course, out of respect, the team they used to be on, the catcher goes in front of the plate, and they just let the player have their moment. And I like that. I mean, a little common sense with the clock. I heard Adam Wainwright say, though, he wished there was like 5 more, like Ray was talking about, 5 more seconds. He said maybe 5 more seconds, or let the pitcher have a moment to say time where he can collect his thoughts if the game's kind of getting too fast for him or something like that. I don't know about that, but I do. I didn't even want lights in Wrigley Field, Vince. I didn't even want lights in Wrigley Field. I like tradition. Yeah, but now that they got lights in Wrigley, all right, it's pretty cool. You know, it takes me a long time to adjust. So I think we're all pretty much in agreement on that. Some of the rules, the big basis for safety reasons, every once in a while you'd see a first baseman reach across. I've only seen it like 3 times in my life, and the runner runs into the first baseman and breaks their arm. I've seen that like 3 times. But third base, it gives the runner a little somewhat of option to get to the bag, because most of them third basemen completely block the bag, and then we got a collision going on. So anyway, I kind of like the bigger bags, and I haven't even noticed it, to be honest with you. So anyway, that's it. That was a good discussion, guys. I like your thoughts on it. Good input.
Thank you, JJ.
I'm going to ask a question to the 4 Cardinal fans. So, Max, you can zone out if you want at this point.
Cool.
I'm curious, how much attention do you pay to the Cubs and to the other teams in the division, the league, so on and so forth? And the reason I'm asking this is, I was in a game in Cincinnati a few years ago, and me and my wife were sitting out in the bleachers, and I realized that the people who were very vocal really had no idea what was going on with the Chicago Cubs. Who's that? Anthony Rizzo. So, how much attention do you really pay to the opposition, in particular the Cubs? Do you just look what their record are, or do you know the players, or are you somewhere in between?
Want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
All right. Well, one thing about all of us, we were all in the same fantasy league together. So when you draft, you get to know these players you never had. I believe we all had Cubs on our team at one time or another. When you have 12 teams, you got to grab somebody from every team. I'm not above grabbing anybody. But for me, Vince, I'm a super nerd. There's not a player. Every team's got at least one, except for maybe the Oakland A's, have a player that I love, and I keep Ruiz now from the A's. I've kind of kept an eye on because that kid looks like he can run like light, and he steals already 25 bases. So I guess there is one on every team. And I think, Vince, this is going to sound strange, but I like all of us to succeed because they talk about the Central being like the worst division. And I love it when the Cubs stick it to the Yankees, or the Padres who went out and spent all that money, or the Mets. I love it because I hate the Mets. I'll say that right now. I don't hate the Cubs. It's usually like when you guys are good, we're not so good. When we're good, you guys aren't not so good. Every once in a while, we kind of get on the same thing, and it's so much fun when both teams are so good at the same time. But I've been to Cincinnati. I've been to Wrigley. I've been to Milwaukee. Pittsburgh's the only one I haven't went to, and I can't wait to see some of the videos you guys bring home. But no, I love the tradition, everything. And I can't say I follow them nightly like I do the Cardinals, but I probably get to really see about 3 games. You know, and if they're on TV, I watch them. You know, I love those blue uniforms with the Cubs. But that's me. I'm kind of a super nerd. I'm not your average Joe out on the street either. I'm a baseball fanatic.
You want me to go next?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Obviously I'm a diehard Cardinal fan, but growing up, I mean, just the love of baseball. I've always loved baseball, period. So I always just enjoyed watching the game, watching other teams play. You know, like JJ said, I mean, we had that league. How long was that?
96.
JJ used to get a newspaper and do all the stats and score our points for our fantasy
Every 3
league
days.
before the internet, before all the computer did it for you, you know. So we put our teams together. So by doing that, yeah, I mean, doing a fantasy league, that always helps you keep up with players from you know, across the country. And I've always followed the Cubs, and the rivalry is better when both teams are really good. So you want that, you know, even though you want to beat them every time, you want a good game. You want to see a good game. Rizzo. I remember with our fantasy league, I had Anthony Rizzo from his rookie season and had him for a few years. Kept him. You know, he was one of my keepers for many years. And I've always followed just baseball, period. So just you know, loving the game and following both teams. Right,
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way as Brandon. I'll watch the Cubs. I'm not familiar with a whole lot of their players. You know, I like the stars that they have. They had, you know, Sosa back in the late '90s, early 2000s. He was fun to watch. Kerry Wood, I loved watching him pitch. It was amazing. I know, Vince. And this new guy you guys got, I've been kind of keeping an eye on him. Morel, I think is his name. Wow, he is an all-star in my book. That guy is on fire. He's a good player. I really like watching him play. And this may sound weird, but I'm also a huge Yankees fan for the American League. I have my National League team, which is my Cardinals. You know, they're always
Amen.
gonna be my favorite, and they'll win every time. But if I watch American League games, I watch the Yankees a lot. I know everybody's laughing in the background. It's all right. But I'm
a Yankees fan.
I just love watching that team. They, you know, they go out and spend the money and they get the players, you know, watching Aaron Judge hit. It's you know, it's just fun to watch. You know, it's I do watch a little bit of the West Coast games. I like watching the Dodger games every now and then when I can get a chance. East Coast, I've always been a Braves. You know, when they would come to town, I'd try to get tickets for that game. Chipper Jones was one of my favorites from Atlanta. So I keep track of the Cubs. I don't really follow them, but I like watching their stars because when they got some good players, boy, they're real good.
Good fans too. They got great following. I respect the Cub fans because when they're not good, they pack the stadium. Like look at Cincinnati. When they're not good, there's nobody there.
They're losers.
Or Kansas City.
Well, what about you, Brody?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The only reason I really follow the Cubs is because right now they're ahead of us by like one game, isn't it?
I think a
half game. So I like to see you guys to see when we're ahead. So but yeah, I enjoyed seeing the Reds play in Cincinnati when me and Dad went up there and see him play the Reds. Was it Rizzo hit like a grand slam or something?
No, Baez hit a grand slam to beat the Reds.
And whoever the poor pitcher was hit Puig, and Puig, of course, was running out there fighting everybody he could, and they had to get the straitjacket out for him or something. I don't know. He was going crazy, but yeah, I don't hate the Cubs by any means, but
and the Pirates.
So Max, do you pay attention to the Cardinals?
I mean, yeah, I live in St. Louis, half the time, and they're inescapable. They're everywhere. If you go to a restaurant, they're on TV. So yeah, of course I keep up with the Cardinals.
I think it's just good baseball. As a fan, you just love the game, and of course you love when the new guys pop up and the traditions keep going. And Ernie Banks, in my books, one of the greatest players ever lived. And nobody ever says anything about Ernie, Yeah, that's good times. Well, I tell you what, can I go with another question, Vince?
Sure.
All right, they're talking about expansion. They're talking about bringing 2 new teams to Major League Baseball. And I mean, you can tell me who you think's going to get a team, but tell me what cities would you like to get a team and why? Because this is going to be fun. You know, there's a lot of teams out there I've heard 7 team names that could be teams that get cities that get new teams. Who would y'all like to see get teams?
Well, I'll start off. I'd like to see either Nashville or Memphis get a team in that area. I really think that area needs a pro team, and then maybe Oklahoma City or Salt Lake City. That's just my personal opinion on it, you know, to kind of spread that out a little bit that way, because there's no teams in that area. But that's the 4 cities I'd like to see. I know you said 2, but I'd either Nashville or Memphis for me for one, and either Salt Lake City or Oklahoma City for the other.
I think what would be a great city that they could expand to, because I have the Toronto, right, Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah,
all right, making sure I said that right. I think Mexico City could be a good expansion team, because you know we have a ton of Latin baseball players from Dominican and all those Latin countries. I think Mexico would just absolutely love. I think they could have a very sustaining fan base, and numbers just show up to their game. And I think Salt Lake City would be good too, because to my knowledge, I don't think they have literally any sports teams except BYU, and I don't even think they have like a soccer team or anything. So I
taught
NBA. They do have.
I forgot about the Jazz. Yeah, I don't watch NBA in case you haven't noticed. But
it's a beautiful area too. That would be a nice area.
Well, yeah. I'll stay on the same thought as Brody. I've been saying for 20 years, and I know things are going to have to change politically, but they are changing politically. The best baseball hotbed where people are absolutely bananas about baseball is Havana, Cuba. And if Havana had a team bringing that Latin flavor, I think would be just a tremendous jolt into baseball. And I know it's not at a point politically where they're ready to have an expansion team there, but that's a place that I hope before I die, things change enough to where Havana gets a team. And I think that would be a tremendous watch. The second place I would like to see Montreal get a team back, because those people supported the team in a terrible stadium with terrible ownership. They would have great talent, and they would all have to be traded before they hit free agency, because they knew they weren't going to re-sign them. And Felipe Alou was the manager for so many years, and he did such a great job with that young talent, telling them, you're not going to retire here, but for your first 6 years, play your butt off for these fans, because they'll love you. And they were always competitive. And in '94, they should have made the playoffs, but there were no playoffs. So I would just love to see them get a second chance and it done right this time.
There you go.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea for it would be the Expos again. Would you give them the Expos? Same name?
I would like to see them be called the Montreal Cartmans, for South Park. They always make fun of Canada on South Park. So
I didn't know that.
How about Puerto Rico? Maybe it's a U.S. territory. So it's, I know you're talking about Cuba. It's in that area, that direction, I guess, of sorts. But how about Oakland? Does Oakland have a team? Or is there? Oh, wow.
They did in the 70s.
I know there's no fans. There's no
80s.
fans. How about San Antonio, Texas? JJ, you've been there many times. I know
it's a growing city.
But it's a large city. 6th biggest city in the United States, perhaps. Yeah.
Big baseball, but that would give Texas three teams, but they are scattered out, Sure. But a lot of San Antonio people can go up to Arlington and see a game. But yeah, it's far enough out. They could probably support a team, I think. And they got minor league baseball there too.
I also liked Ray say it. You said Nashville, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, how about Charlotte, North Carolina?
Oh, that's a real
Possibility. Those would be places I thought of. But
Yeah, I mean those are all sound. My big ones were going to be Memphis, simply because the American South doesn't have a ton of teams, especially in that region. You really only, I mean, that's mostly just Braves territory at this point. So
Yeah.
they could use another team. Salt Lake City also. I love the idea of expanding, somewhat internationally, like keeping it in kind of the North American hemisphere, but yeah, Mexico City team would be very cool. Puerto Rico is a great idea. You've got plenty of great Puerto Rican talent, such as Correa and Baez. It would be a lot of fun.
I think Molina also.
Molina.
Mhm.
My idea was as well, and it's all been said, was Mexico City. I think those fans would just light up. They would back that team. And then you would have the whole North America. We all have it, we're all represented. And Montreal, because like Vince said, I just don't think they got a fair shake. And that's a great traditional place. That's where Jackie Robinson came up and was playing minor league baseball before he went down to the Dodgers. And so much history there. And I think that's a big area. And I think they would, this time around, if they got a nice stadium, I think they'd support that. But if they're going to have a team, they got to have a retractable roof. You can't be in Montreal, Canada with an open ball field, I think. That's the only thing I would ask for. Well, that was good, man. You guys, I like your ideas. We ought to run this. We should run the MLB.
Oh, we will one day. For everybody, who will win the National League Central?
Cardinals.
Any reason why you say that?
I know we were favored at the beginning, and the beginning was very rough for us, but I think that team's starting to gel. I do think we're going to acquire a pitcher. I was talking to JJ a couple days or about a week ago about this. There's a couple guys we're looking at, and I just have a feeling we're going to put all the pieces together, and we'll be there at the end.
Cool.
Such a weak division. It's I don't know.
Don't you be bad mouthing the Central. Don't you be bad mouthing the Central.
We knew Cardinal fans. You knew going into before the season even started, they needed pitching. They didn't. Ownership didn't go and get pitching like they knew they needed. So now it's a much bigger challenge to win the division than it should have been. They definitely have the lineup, batting lineup, to do that. If they get some pitching, I think they could win it, but it definitely shouldn't be as close as I think it should have been before the start of the year. I'll say Cardinals, but not by much.
I agree, Brandon. It's not going to be by much, but we'll pull it off.
I want to say the Cardinals because, of course, being a Cardinals fan, I want them to win. But you can't overlook the Brewers. They have great starting pitching like Corbin Burns and stuff, and they're just a powerhouse of a team. They ain't somebody we should just easily forget about. I don't think the Pirates are gonna win. Bless their heart, but I think
bless their heart. In the South, that means that's a nice way of saying they ain't gonna do it,
right? But I think the Brewers, if the Cardinals, I hope the Cardinals win, of course, but I think the Brewers will at least give us a run for the money.
They just shut out the Astros 2 games.
Right, the former, last year's world champions, So, they're definitely a force to be reckoned with.
I think it's whichever team just kind of buys more at the deadline. I mean, you've seen the Brewers make these weird kind of like lateral upgrades where like they get rid of Josh Hader, but they get a prospect back or like a platoon bat or something like that. I think if the Cardinals trade for Giolito, I think that's the most likely outcome. Don't quote me on that, but I think if they do that, they're probably going to pretty soundly win the Central. If the Cubs are hovering around 500, maybe they'll swing a trade or two, but I think it's still the Cardinals.
Yeah, I got to go with the Cardinals simply because I don't like the Brewers' offense. and I love the Cardinals offense, and the Cardinals pitching problems can be fixed with one starter, and then everything should fall into place. The Cubs have the starting pitching, but our big problem is the bullpen, and it's harder to fix a bullpen because we've got about 3 or 4 slots in the bullpen we need to replace, and that's very tough to do in the season. So I think you're looking at the Cardinals, and I think you're looking at the Brewers, who will hang around till the end. And I think then the Cubs, Pirates, and the Reds are going to bring up the rear.
I'm saying Cardinals, but for one reason. I think it's our depth. We have about 7 outfielders and 4 middle infielders. And if we can, it seems like we could adjust to some injuries. If we get some injuries, we could be okay. Our bullpen's already taken 2 big injuries, Packy Naughton and Wilkin Rodriguez, who I thought was going to be a big star for the team this year. He was a star in spring training, but he didn't make it to the regular season. I really look at the Cubs as a team that's on the upswing. I don't think it's this year, but I don't think it's going to be far off because you got some good young guys coming up that's on the team now and in the minors. The Brewers, I just don't think they can handle many injuries, and they've already had a couple of guys that's on the 10-day IR. I'm sorry, I can't remember what it's called now, the IR. And I don't know how. I just don't know if in the long run if they're going to be able to hang. And that's the reason I think we're going to win it, just because of our depth, and that's it. But the way we've been running things, we'll find a way to keep it close. Our coaches will. That's for sure. So that's my thought on that. Well, my final question for everybody is I know Ray said you like listening to it on the radio.
Yeah.
And I know most of the Cardinal all of us guys that love the Cardinals are going to say 2 names. But I was going to ask you your favorite broadcast team. Who, and, we're all going to say Buck and Shannon probably. But if there's another team, is there somebody you really enjoy on TV or radio listening to the game and do the broadcast? So I thought I was going to get your thoughts on that.
I could go. Currently, I don't really have like somebody that I really like. I used to love John Miller and Joe Morgan on
Right
ESPN. I still like hearing Miller call what is it, Giants. Just hearing him when he calls games. But of course, Buck and Shannon. Growing up hearing them on the radio, I miss that. But yeah, Miller Morgan on TV. They did ESPN games. I really like that. Somebody I'm not a fan of is John Rooney. When he calling the Cardinals. I'm not a fan of him.
Okay.
Couldn't stand Chris Berman. Not a fan of his, or
back.
that Mad Dog Russo when he does the MLB
well,
TV.
yeah, I think
can't stand those guys. Can't stand the yelling and screaming, and it's just over the top. But those are my thoughts on that. But Ray, you got something?
Oh yeah. Well, my favorite, of course, JJ, this is Shannon and Buck all time. That's my all-time favorite. I'm learning to tolerate Chip Correa and Jim Edmonds. But Chip Correa's fine. Jim Edmonds, I'm not a huge fan of. I liked him as a player, but
you like Brad Thompson? He sits in there sometimes. Brad's fun.
Yeah, that's okay too. And I also listen to the guys from the Royals. I think it's Rex Hudler and Ryan.
Rex the Wonder Dog. You don't get no better than Rex. He's wild, man.
Yeah. I thought when I watched the Royals games, I like listening to Hudler. Of course, he's our boy.
Yeah, Rex is super.
But yeah, that's once again, I'll listen to some of the West Coast stuff, and they're okay. They're just if you're not used to listening to them all the time, I guess you don't really get a feeling with them or whatever, like you do, listening to our hometown guys all the time.
Yeah, I mean, currently my favorite. See what the Cubs are doing at Marquee is they're rolling out like a bunch of different broadcast teams. You never really know what you're gonna get. The only broadcast team I really enjoy right now is JD and Pat Hughes when they call games, which is I don't know, maybe 10% of the time, unfortunately. not the biggest fan of Boog. He's too ESPN for me. And I kind of any game that's on national TV for the Cubs, I can't stand the announcers half the time. Whether it's same with Apple TV and Peacock, whoever does those broadcasts, not the biggest fan. So for me, it's just Pat Hughes and JD. Jim Deshays, for those who don't know.
Okay. Brody, do you even listen to the games on the radio?
No, not really. I mean, I enjoy Jim Edmonds. You
like it?
I do. I think. Well, I didn't really get to experience like Mike Shannon and Jack Buck a whole lot, but I enjoy Edmonds. Now I don't think I don't get annoyed by him. I can listen to him.
Don't get annoyed by him. Your bar is very low.
You can tolerate him there.
Yeah. Sometimes you get those announcers that you're just like, it'd almost be better if you just listen to the game,
Turn the sound down.
Yeah, if you just turn the sound down.
That's why I'm a radio guy.
Right.
Of course, I've got to say Vince Lloyd and Lou Boudreau, being I'm named after Vince Lloyd. Even though I barely heard him when I was a kid because I lived in St. Louis and he did the radio side. So that's just a little thing. It's very difficult for me to pin this down. I really liked Steve Stone and Harry Carey before Harry went completely blind and senile. Steve Stone, I still enjoy watching White Sox games to see his insight. He's got a great voice. He's got a great understanding of the game. And he started his career doing color with the Cubs with Harry Carey. And I always enjoyed listening to them do the game. For not, hold on, someone's trying to interrupt me with a phone call. For someone who for like other teams, I would go to bed. I would go to bed and have the Dodger game on just to listen to Vin Scully do by himself, just to listen to the stories and how effortless it was. And here he is in his 90s before he retired, and he still sounded tremendous. That was awesome. I mean, it was like a bedtime story to me just to listen to him spin his stories while doing the game without missing a beat. I also like Dwayne Stats from the Tampa Bay Rays for a couple of reasons. Dwayne Stats is a graduate of Wood River High, which so am I. And Dwayne Stats, his beautiful cousin, I dated whenever I was a teenager. So,
hey, all right, Vince.
Dwayne Stats for the Rays.
Well, Buck and Shannon, I like enthusiasm. Like every day, it's like seeing your old friends. I like to have them, be informative. Tell me about the game. Usually there's an ex-player in there who's giving you the insights to the game, and to be funny, to be charming. And Buck and Shannon, to me, checked all those boxes. But I put a couple other names down here too, and I put John Miller and Joe Morgan on the ESPN game. Absolutely love Miller's call and Morgan talking about the game, and them two together. It was so much fun. As a kid growing up, I used to get excited when it got to be about 2:00 in the afternoon because we're only 5 hours away from the Cardinal game. But the Cub game would be on, and I would hear Steve Stone and Harry Carey, and it was like a party. We'd have a triple play, and Harry would be talking about, check out the kid in the sombrero, and it would be so much fun. I'd wait. And, if you had to go to the bathroom, you wait until they went to a commercial, and then you run in there and get back to hear Carey and Stone doing the game. But not to be overlooked, Bob Uecker does a great job with the Milwaukee Brewers. And rain delays used to be so much fun when you had Jack Buck, Mike Shannon, and Harry Carey during their long rain delay, just tell stories. It was just, it was something special that I wish everybody could get to hear because it was a good time. Good time. Well, anyway, that's all my questions, Vince. I hit all 4 of mine.
Yeah, I just want to tell a real quick story.
Sure.
This is when Steve Stone first joined the booth with Harry. There's a game in Montreal, nobody's there, and Jody Davis drove in 6 RBIs, drove in six runs. He had 6 RBIs, and they are talking about how great this was. And Steve's like, or Harry's like, I wonder who's got the most RBIs in a game for the Cubs. And they looked it up, and it was Heine Zimmerman. And Harry said, Heine Zimmerman, isn't he known for like chasing home the winning run in the World Series? And Steve said, no, he's known for the man named Heine who has the most RBIs in a game. Last question. Who on your team would you give up for Shohei Ohtani? You're going to the trade deadline and you think Ohtani can put you over the edge. Who would you be willing to give up?
Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah. Wow. Thinking about this here. No, I give up a lot of players to get him. I know we got plenty of outfield depth, so I would give up a few outfielders.
I'm not saying, give up BB Richards, I mean,
He always
who
makes it on the show.
of your echelon players would you
Like
be
a
willing
top
to
tier
give up?
guy?
Yeah,
like
top tier guys.
Okay, like a Goldschmidt or an Arenado type of guy, or
You're
because
probably
they're not going to take
it.
it. Well, yeah, right. They're not going to take a bottom feeder, that we got there. I don't know, Donovan. I'd trade him. I'd trade Newt Bar, even though he's buddies with Ohtani. Let's see. I wouldn't want to get rid of Nolan Gorman. I would try to keep him, but if that was that was the guy they wanted for Ohtani, I would trade him also. As far as like a package deal, you're looking for just one specific guy or multiple players?
Just of your better players, who would you be willing to give up? Package, just spitball names, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, look, who's untouchable?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get rid of Arenado or Goldschmidt, obviously. I mean, you get rid of them, it's kind of a wash, giving up a great player for another great player. It doesn't really help your team and much, I guess, as far as starting pitcher, because you're getting a good starter also with Ohtani. But I wouldn't get rid of either one of those for sure. Just about everybody else I would consider trading.
I just the 2 young players, because the Angels, I don't know, they're in the hunt right now, but they were going to be wanting to rebuild and around a bunch of young players. But the only 2 young players I wouldn't want to give up would be Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman. Other than that, probably a 4-guy deal. Probably Livator. They're going to want a pitcher. Gracefio. I would ask him if they'd be interested in taking Dakota Hudson. You interested in Hudson? Here he is. But I don't think they'll take him.
I give him Flaherty.
Yeah, but they're probably going to win our youngest players, and maybe even a first-round draft choice. Give them some draft choices. That's what the NFL does.
Would you trade straight up Goldschmidt for Ohtani?
No, I would not.
I don't see how you could say no to that, because you're going to get a player who's going to have more power. Believe it or not, he's going to have more power than Goldschmidt, and then every 5th day he's going to be the ace of your team.
I see what you're saying, Vince, but I think there's a better way to get Ohtani than to have to give up somebody like a Goldschmidt or
you're probably right. I'm saying, who would you be willing to? Not what's feasible, what's doable. Who would you be willing to? Because, for me with the Cubs, I'm to a point where I've decided I will give up anybody for him. For a 2-way player who is a top 5 pitcher in the league and a top 5 hitter in the league, you're just not going to be able to find that player to plug in 2 holes that you might have in your team with one player. And being he's in the history of baseball, he's a unicorn. And so you know, our best player, you know, Ian Happ right now, maybe maybe Swanson. Yeah, I'd be willing to give up anybody to get that kind of a talent if we can resign him. But I'm, you know, not looking for that. So that's what I'm willing to do. What are you willing to do, Max? You're a Cubs fan. I know you're not going to give up Nico Horner, but
Yeah, everyone except for Nico Horner. No, I mean, I think no one's untouchable at this point. I mean, I would trade my own arm and leg if it meant re-signing Ohtani for, you know, $10 million, you know, a year. Obviously not $10 million, but $50 million, whatever it takes. Justin Steele, I guess, is probably the best player on the Cubs right now. I would totally do a 1-for-1 swap of Justin Steele for Shohei Ohtani. You're getting a slightly worse pitcher, but you're getting a, you know, an all-star caliber hitter. They can slot, you know, into DH every single day. Heck, maybe you can trade him to play right field or something and increase his value even more. But yeah, I'd give up basically anything for him, except for Nico Horner, obviously.
I think it's going to take 4 players to get him. It's going to be like Soto. I think Soto took 5 players to get him, and they are only going to have him for, I think, 3.5 years. And they, you know, they gave out all their top prospects for him.
Yeah, I put a package together just in my mind. I think Tyler O'Neill, Livator, and then Mason Wynn from our minor league team would be about what I would give up to get Ohtani. And like I know Vince was saying, Ohtani's the unicorn. He's our generational Babe Ruth or whatever. But man, it's going to take a lot to get him. And I would not get rid of Nootbaar, because I think if Ohtani came to St. Louis, that relationship that they already have is just going to blossom even more, and it's going to help our team progress.
Kind of fun. Yeah. I don't even think of getting Ohtani, to be honest with you, Vince. It's just, it's a pipe dream. Stuff like that don't happen for the Cardinals, you know.
hey, it's a pipe dream. I agree, but man, I like to think about it.
God, it would be nice. You know, as Cardinal fans, I don't know about you guys, but we've kind of fallen in love with our stars. We don't want to see them go. We'll keep them 2 years past their prime just to see them stay here. It's always been like that. I mean, Lou Brock there at the end, I mean, he had pigeons on his shoulders in the outfield. They didn't move, you know. And it's just the idea of getting rid of Yachty. And when Albert left, I felt betrayed. Man, when Albert left the Cardinals, I was like, what did we do wrong? You know?
There's a couple pieces in history that I remember in Cardinal history. When they got rid of Simmons, it was get rid of Herzog. That you don't trade Simmons. And a year after trading Simmons, the next year they won the World Series. Then he traded Hernandez for nothing, negative nothing. But after trading Hernandez, they went to 2 more World Series. I do because Cub fans, they fall in love with their players too, like, you know, Banks, Sandberg, Milton Bradley. So
Bradley.
That's a joke amongst Cub fans, but we fall in love with players too. But there are times when you have to make the business decision above the heart. And if you would ask any Cardinal, would you rather have Ted Simmons back or to not win the 82 World Series? Win the 82 World Series. Would you rather have Hernandez back and do not be a playoff team for the rest of the 80s, or would you rather go to 2 more World Series and come up short? Well, you'd rather go to 2 more World Series and come up short. So I like a general manager who at least has the gumption to say, I know this might not be popular, but it is right. And that's kind of what I see with Ohtani here. I think it's going to take general managers. If it's going to be the Cardinals or the Cubs or one of these teams that's really into their tradition, it's going to take a general manager to say, this is what's right for the team. And honestly, Cardinals general manager wouldn't do that. I don't see a Cardinal general manager trading off a very good player in his prime because of the backlash of the fans. They always say, well, I don't really read the paper. Sure they do. Sure they do.
Yeah.
But the Cub from Hendry to the next to Hoyer to Carter Hawkins, they've proven, we'll get rid of anybody. And it hurts when you watch Rizzo and Bryant and Baez and everybody else get traded away. But, then all of a sudden we got this great crop of young players that it's like, man, we've never had this kind of talent on the brink of making the majors. So it's an interesting question. But yeah, I know it's a pipe dream, but man, I love to dream.
So. Oh yeah.
Well, on that note, I do want to thank our guest. Thank you, Brody. Big hand for Brody. Thank you, Brandon.
Brandon,
Brandon.
Good seeing you, man.
Good seeing you, Brandon.
For Ray.
Ray.
Good seeing
Big
everybody.
hand for Max.
Max, the
Max.
man, right there.
Nice meeting
We're
you.
going to do a panel.
Nice
We're going
meeting
to
you
try
too,
to
Matt.
make it a monthly deal. So you'll be seeing different people asked to be on the panel. And if you are one of our listeners and you think, hey, that doesn't look so painful, you'd like to be on the panel, let JJ know, let me know, send an email to onecard1cup1beer@gmail.com. Let us know. We'd be happy to put you on the panel. Thank you, gentlemen. JJ, you got anything else to add?
One last thing on the announcers. I'm floating this out here for the Grizzlies in 6 years. Opper and Jackson, huh? Vince and JJ, the Grizzly announcers.
It could happen.
It could happen. Otani to the Cardinals and Opper and Jackson in the booth.
All right. You doing play-by-play or color?
I like to do the color.
Okay. I talk too slow to do play-by-play.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll both do both.
Yeah, all right. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we can open up our baseball
All
cards.
right. All right.
JJ, I have Dondras, and I love this package of the pitcher. I love that class. I should
Yeah.
make this into a coffee cup. I just love it so much.
I seen
What are you opening
t-shirts.
up?
I seen t-shirts with that exact front cover on the front of the t-shirt.
Really?
Yes, I have. Tony Pruno, who we went to his baseball room, he's got several shirts, and he might have that one, and he's got the one with the rookie trophy that's on the baseball cards, the little trophy that for the rookies. He's got a t-shirt with that on there too, so that's pretty cool.
Cool.
I am opening up 2022 Series 2, and it's got Vladdy Jr. on it on a home and away jersey right there.
Is he any good?
They say he is. He's not
All
as
right.
hot as Morel is.
Who is? So I'll go ahead and go first.
Sure.
Wax packages.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and remember how I was opening up that series that had the puzzles of
A stand.
yeah, Stan the Man. Well, this one has Carl Yastrzemski.
Oh yes.
For those of you who don't know, that is Mike Yastrzemski's grandfather, actually.
Won the Triple Crown in '67.
Yeah. Oh yeah, see, I got the stats piece, and it says
all right.
only American leaguer to reach both 3,000 hits and 400 home runs. At the time, he was elected to the Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. He was the last major leaguer to win the Triple Crown and MVP award in 1967. So,
and now Miguel Cabrera has won the Triple Crown since then. Yeah.
Oh, so Diamond Kings, very good pitcher for the Expos. Bryn Smith, pitched for the Cardinals too.
Friends with Geddy Lee from Rush.
Right, yeah, friends with Geddy Lee, very good. Good fourth outfielder for the Tigers, Tracy Jones.
I remember Tracy Jones. Yes.
Rookie of the Year, Delino DeShields, who played for the Cubs. Did he play for the Cardinals at one time too?
I think so.
I think he did.
I think a brief time at the end of his career, I believe.
Yeah, well, I said rookie of the year, rated rookie, and he had a really good season. He would wear the socks up to his knees, and that was a tribute to the Negro League players who always wore their socks real high. So yeah, he's a really good guy. Well, here was a pretty good pitcher, Dave Schmidt for the Orioles.
Oh yeah, yes.
Uh, bu- 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 uh, yeah, solid ERA reliever. Yeah. Carlos Martinez from the White Sox, one of many guys named Carlos Martinez who has
Yeah, a
played
lot of
Major League
Carlos
Baseball.
Martinez's.
Yeah, very common name. Alan Anderson, who once won an ERA title with the Twins.
I did not know that.
Yes, let me see if I can find it on here. In 1988, his ERA was 2.45 to lead the league, and he pitched 202 innings, gave up 199 hits, and he was 16-9 that year. Last rookie to win 20 games, Tom Browning for the Reds.
Darn.
Yep. And even though he won 20 games, he finished second in the Rookie of the Year that year. To whom?
Yeah, to whom? What year
Vince
is that?
Coleman.
Vince Coleman.
Yeah.
I should have known that.
Guy who should be in the Hall of Fame, Kurt Schilling.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, and I remember Jay Howell getting thrown out of a playoff game in about 1988 against the Mets because he had substance or something, and Davey Johnson went out to the umpire and said, check him. They threw him out of the game. Gary Sheffield.
Oh, yeah. Fastest bat. They always talked about his bat speed.
World Series hero, Mark Lemke.
Oh, God, man, he's tough.
Oh, one of my favorite players of all time, John. I am not a Kruk.
I love Kruk. He just enjoyed himself out there.
Two favorite Kruk stories. Okay, he had testicular cancer, and so he had a testicle removed. And he showed up the next year in spring training that said, "If I don't get to play this game, I'm going to take my ball and go home," which I thought was funny. Another time, he was smoking in the runway where fans could see down there, and this lady said, "I can't believe you're smoking, being you're an athlete." He said, "Lady, I'm not an athlete. I'm a ball player." Oh, Rene Gonzalez. I don't remember him. Do you?
No, I do not remember him. Was he in the WWF, Rene Gonzalez?
Yeah, I think so.
The high flying.
Finally, a Hall of Famer, Kirby Puckett.
Kirby Puckett. Oh, yeah. He's special.
Mets catcher, Mackie Sasser.
I remember Mackie.
Yeah.
He on a foul ball, he ran as fast as he could, caught the ball, slid, and caught John Tudor's leg between him and the bench. Broke his leg.
That's right.
Broke his leg, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then we got Jeff Paterick. I don't remember him.
No, don't know him.
Oh, former Cardinal who had some nasty stuff, Jose De Leon.
Yes, hard. They didn't get no run support. He pitched so good one year and he got no run support.
Yeah, that seemed to be his career. He had trouble getting run support.
Pittsburgh and St.
Really
Louis.
good stuff though.
Yeah, I always enjoyed him. Well, the 2022 Series 2, you see a lot of in the Series 2, you see if guys get traded, sometimes they end up on the other team, so they update the cards. This is a Boston Red Sox, Christian Arroyo. I love this card. He's running around the bases, pumping his fist in the air. That's kind of cool.
That's
right
cool.
There. Yeah, that's a cool one. A very rich guy you may have heard of. This is back when he in his Dodgers days, Trey Turner.
Ah.
Yeah, there's old Trey right there coming in for a ball, about to throw a guy out at first. A pitcher, very underrated pitcher. I like this guy. We always talk about the Brewers pitching staff, but Adrian Hauser, who just shut out the Astros.
Yeah, week. He had a heck of a game yesterday, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Very good. Very good. I have to say, if he was on our staff, he'd probably be the ace, and he's their number 4, probably. That's how good they are.
Time out real quick.
Sure.
Okay. It's no secret Max's favorite baseball player is Nico Horner. Okay. And Max is going to be out on our panel coming up here in a sec. Or was on our panel, excuse me. We record these out of sequence sometimes, so
the secret's out now.
Nico just hit a home run, and before on my screen here, before the ball went out, Max had already texted me Nico. So
there he is. He's on it. He's on it. Oh, that's cool. I'm happy for him. Well, future stars. They had future stars and Keibert Ruiz, and it looks like the Nationals, Washington Nationals. Don't know him. He may be a big star one day, but I've never heard of him. All right, let's see who. Oh, this is a guy you may have known. A different uniform, but a name everyone knows. Darby Swanson. There he is. Been a big part of your team this year too.
Oh, he's been excellent.
I think he's brought that winning culture from Atlanta, and just been a good leader for the team.
Yeah.
I tell you what, this guy, talk about leaders. This guy is a leader wherever he goes. George Springer from the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Of course, I always think of him as a Houston Astro. Probably after he retires, that's who I'll remember him as a Houston Astro.
Yeah, he's playing right these days.
Oh, well, he hurt himself in the playoffs last year. Maybe he's still not 100%. I don't think his numbers are as good as they usually are, but he's probably playing, not at full play. I don't know this guy, Ryan O'Hearn from the Royals, but I don't know a whole lot of Royals players, to be honest with you, these days.
Yeah, I've seen him a few times. He's like every other player on the Royals right now, except for Salvador Perez. There's just a bunch of guys right now.
Bobby Witt Jr.,
Salvador Perez, Brad Keller's a decent pitcher, and then it's just a bunch of guys.
I love the nickname Vinny Pasquatch. They call him the Pasquatch.
Yeah.
And they have the Bigfoot walking on top of the scoreboard out there. I love that. That's pretty cool nickname right there. A guy who had the first half of his career was incredible, World Series and everything, but Steven Strasburg. Yeah. He a lot of injuries. Played at San Diego State for Tony Gwynn. Was one of Tony Gwynn's players in college.
Put him on the mound and he's great, but you just can't keep him healthy.
No, can't keep him healthy, The Dodgers come up with these young guys. Austin Barnes. Yeah. I don't know a whole lot about them, but they just keep coming up. They just had a pitcher come up yesterday and pitch for him, and he looks like $1 million already. Oh, they have old style of cards, like they throw one card in a pack that looks like an old card. And I like this. And of course, it's Ohtani with the Angels right there.
Yeah.
Very nice card. I
like that.
That might be 85. I don't know what year that is, but I remember that year that those cards were more prominent. Still with the Astros at the time, Carlos Correa. Little did we know what was going to happen on the offseason right there, but there he is with the Astros.
Yeah, I'm glad we got Swanson.
Yes. Looking back, it turned out very well. This kid here for Texas is having a really good year. And this kid, I didn't know much about, but Nathaniel Lowe, I think he's one of the guys, besides the free agents they brought over, that's really took the Rangers. They're running neck and neck with the Astros this year. This guy was Jonathan Scope. You remember him?
Oh, yeah. He's been around. Been a good
Baltimore
player
Orioles. Too. Yeah, there he is with the Tigers. And my last card is a Tampa Bay player, Kevin Kiermaier.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good defensive player right there. And that's it for me. That's my pack of 2022s.
Very good. Well, next week we will be doing Down on the Farm. And concerning the what do we call it? Trivia. We because of not recording in 2 weeks, we won't be doing the trivia this month or for the month of June. we will still have Down on the Farm next week, and then we'll resume with our normal stuff. I hope you enjoyed the panel. It's something we're trying to make a monthly showcase out of. Not monthly, but semi-regular. And if you'd like to be a guest on the panel, by all means, let us know. We'll put you on.
Pull up a chair.
And we need good-looking people because it's me and JJ most of the time. That's why we have Max and Brody on a lot, because
That's right.
they bring in the chicks. Yeah. So
And we chase them away.
yeah, we chase them away. Ooh, we're the creepy old men. So, all right. Well, JJ, you have a good week. Good luck to the Cardinals. Maybe next week when we're on here, both of us will went 6-0 for the week.
I love it.
And just ready to make it a 2-team race and kick the Brewers to and the Pirates to the back of the standings with the Reds.
Back there. That's right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot.